Kingdom TV is making TV watchable again. Join us on the Active Kingdom Entertainment Network. Download Taken TV from your App Store now.
Over the last 20 years, with all your support, we've been able to not only launch the original MyPillow, but also the MyPillow mattress topper, Giza Dream bed sheets, My Slippers, and the MyPillow bath towels. But there's so much more. In fact, we have over 200 products, and I'm so confident that you'll love each and every one of them that when you go to MyPillow.com now, you'll immediately receive a free gift valued at $20 just for checking out the website. No purchase necessary. Get everything from MyPillow blankets, sleepwear, kitchen towels, mattresses, duvets, pet beds, body pillows, comforters, couch pillows, bathrobes, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And remember, just for checking out MyPillow.com, you'll immediately receive a free gift valued at $20. No purchase necessary. This is a limited time promotion, so go to MyPillow.com now.
Lindell TV. Lindell TV is pleased to present the Sentinel Report with your host, Alex Newman. Alex has written for a wide array of publications in the United States and abroad. He currently serves as a contributor to Epoch Times and foreign correspondent and senior editor for the New American magazine. Alex is the author of several books and has been a guest on countless radio and television programs and is a much sought-after conference speaker. Alex is best known for his reporting and research that has exposed the dangers and agenda of globalism. As the father of 5 children, Alex is working to defend faith, family, and freedoms from the hostile philosophies and ideas that are contrary to the Bible and the United States Constitution. And now, here is your host, Alex Newman.
As usual, when you see my face, you know I am not Alex Newman. Alex is traveling, giving talks, generally impacting the culture for the good. So I'm real grateful to Alex Newman for allowing me to sit in. I'm really grateful to Lindell TV for hosting as well. My name is Dr. Duke Pesta. I am the academic director and the executive director of Freedom Project Academy and Media. We have a wonderful program of online school for your kids if they want to have a really great Christian classical education. Take a look at what we can offer you, fpeusa.org. Take a look, and we have a wonderful media arm as well. So take a look at that. Today, I'd like to talk to you about false flags and other leftist tactics. We have a really interesting story. Our show is emanating out of Wisconsin, and so this is a Wisconsin story, but it has national implications. Very interesting. We had a young man by the name of Marcus Schroeder, and there he is. You can see him. He is part of a group called Warriors for Christ. He's a remarkable young man, as you'll see in a moment, very articulate. This story takes place in Watertown, Wisconsin, a really lovely little lakeside community, very small, very sleepy. In Watertown, Wisconsin, there was a drag pride event about a couple weeks ago, and it was very lascivious. You had adult drag queens shaking their business in front of little kids. You can see here how provocative it is. They walk out into the audience there. You got little kids sitting there. You have all this kind of over-the-top behavior from these drag queens. Let this video play out. You can sort of see how dramatic and in many ways creepy these kinds of celebrations are. You get a sense of who's there in the audience. There were a number of children, including very young children, there as well. And to the surprise of nobody, there was a major protest going on, and that one of the aspects of that protest was inaugurated by Marcus Schroeder, his group Warriors for Christ. According to the Republic Sentinel, Schroeder and a number of other members from the Mercy Seat Christian Church in Brookfield showed up. They made the 50-mile drive to protest. Interestingly, as they were standing there, they were arrested. This is a remarkable aspect. There was no warning by police officers. There was no reason for the arrest. They weren't told why they were being arrested. Again, they weren't warned about this. Take a look at the imagery of our young man, Marcus Schrader, talking about what happened to him.
You shall love your neighbor as yourself. But if you bite and devour one another, beware lest you be consumed by one another.
Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing?
What is the problem?
What's wrong? What are you doing? I just did that my hand. You didn't give him any warning. You just grabbed the mic.
No, this is the same one that we had in here.
Yeah, that was in there. It was not out here. What is wrong with you? What are you doing? You didn't give us any warning.
Let it go. You guys have been warned.
They said they said we can speak out here on the sidewalk freely.
You can speak, but there's no amplified device.
Nobody told us that.
What are you doing? Nobody told me that.
Well, how come there's no amplification?
Resist.
Hey, you guys are acting like thugs, man. You're acting like straight up thugs.
Hey, you're taking away my property.
He has every right to be out here engaging in speech.
Tyrants.
He has every right to be out here engaging in speech.
Pretty shocking in America today that can happen. Notice that they were on a public sidewalk. Notice that there was a barricade, a metal barricade, between them and the drag queen audience. So not only was this a public sidewalk, you were blocked off from them. And most stunningly about this, you see the cop comes up, and the first thing he does is he silences the microphone. You know, there's something really interesting going on here and dangerous. Notice the first thought that the police officer had, we're going to stop this young man from speaking. Look at that right there, then takes him by the wrist. No argument, no accusation. You can hear it during the actual video. One officer seemed to make the argument that you are violating no amplification laws. Now, we've looked into this. We've scoured the Wisconsin statutes. There is absolutely no such statute in Wisconsin. The idea that you can't speak through a microphone or a megaphone at some kind of public gathering there's no such law. So they lied to this kid. They denied him a charge. They didn't tell him why they were silencing him. You could see the officer put his hand over the microphone. Then they took the kid by the wrist and arrested him. And you got to love the young man, right? He pointed out what they are. You are being thugs here. Other members of his group were trying to argue he has every right to be here. This is illegal. You can't do this. It's a public area, public a statement he was making. And look at the back of his T-shirt there. I will stand for truth, even if I stand alone. And boy, isn't that a real remarkable irony when you consider how he's being single-handedly dragged off. He and he alone was arrested here. This is really a disturbing set of images now. We ask ourselves one question. We saw a little bit of this during COVID as well. When did police, not all certainly, but significant numbers of them, rigidly willing to follow what government says without any reason? We saw it when they were persecuting Christians who were trying to go to church during COVID. And we see it here as well. You have a small group of protesters, Christians, using their platform significantly far enough away from the gay pride parade that was going on, the drag queen event that was taking place. And simply by reading the Gospels, the other thing that's really interesting is Marcus Schrader was not reading any of the passages from the Bible that dealt with homosexuality. This is another remarkable thing. He wasn't citing Deuteronomy or Leviticus. He wasn't talking through his amplification. He wasn't talking about the evil of homosexuality. He wasn't condemning homosexuality. One of the things that's most remarkable, the young man was talking about love and how we must love each other. It's kind of stunning when you think about it. Now, we actually have his commentary about this. So listen to Marcus Schrader talk about what happened to him.
When I showed up Saturday, all I did was read from Scripture on the sidewalk. I read from the Bible, Galatians. And by the way, I wasn't reading Romans 1. I wasn't reading any passage that spoke against homosexuality or anything like that. I was reading a passage from the Bible about love. And I was arrested. No reason, not given any warning, not told anything about my amplification needing to be turning down. I was arrested and taken into custody simply for reading the Bible on the sidewalk. You see, as we become more and more tolerant of sexual immorality in our culture, we become more and more intolerant towards Christian morality. And the more we become intolerant towards Christian morality, the more we're going to see lawlessness in our streets. The more we become intolerant of Christian morality, the more we're going to see Nazis. The more we're going to see people who don't hold to a Christian worldview, who think that everybody is a result of animals, and therefore if we are animals, then why can't we just act like animals? We were called a hate group. We were told that we don't want to understand the other side, and I just want to set the record straight. I am more than happy to have that conversation with the other side. I did speech and debate throughout high school, and one of the things that we were taught in debate is that you can't make an argument for your side until you're able to make the argument for the other side. I've sat down and had hours of discussions with LGBTQ activists. I completely understand the other side. I want to understand the other side. But drag queens twerking on kids in lingerie is unacceptable. And that's something that we have to notice as a culture. We can have our disagreements, but there comes a time when we have to understand that we are all going to stand before God one day. And we're going to have to give an account for what we have done with the children in our society, the innocent minds and the children who deserve to be protected.
There is a lot to love about that speech. Courageous, blunt, direct. And of course, we never get any answers from the authorities. We never get a sense of why. And well over a week has gone on since this took place. And we find that the police officer, the police station, the town itself is saying nothing about this. It's complete silence mode. Very twisted in some ways. The young man was talking about Romans, and he was talking about love, and he was talking about understanding. This was an engagement. This was not an attack. I love what he had to say, that, we were called troublemakers. We were called Nazis. We're going to get to that. We're going to take a break in a moment. We'll talk about that. There's another side to this that gets really, really interesting, which will come back after the break. But before we go to break, I'm going to throw some thoughts about this at you here. We seem to be living in a culture now where criticizing the LGBTQ for any reason is enough to get law enforcement, in some cases the FBI, certainly employers, to cancel and fire people. We have a rapper, I can't think of his name right now, it's Yee is part of his name. Anyway, he came out a couple days ago and said he's a Grammy-winning artist, and he came out a couple days ago and said, basically, I don't understand why parents are going along with little kids when it comes to gender and sex change operations and puberty blockers. These little kids are too young. And for about 24 hours, he defended himself, right? And these are some of the participants that you're looking at that drag queen show, including little kids being sexualized. But the rapper, within 48 hours, completely did a 180. He completely reversed what he was saying, and it's obvious why. You could tell from the statement that was released, he didn't write the statement. It was written by his agents or his agency. This was, I'm sure he was told, you back down, you apologize, or we're going to cut you from the record label, threatening the livelihood of people who dare to criticize this stuff. When did this happen? What is there about the LGBTQ that makes it, for lack of a better word, Teflon, that you can't criticize it, you can't argue against it? They argue over and over again, the LGBTQ activists, that they are victims, they are silenced, they are mistreated, they are censored. It's just not true. However, on the other side, you stand athwart them, you challenge them, you show up under your constitutional bona fides to speak your own truth on a public sidewalk, completely divorced from the action taken on the stage, and you're going to get arrested. We've seen a lot of this going on here. We talked about how families were the FBI were doxing moms and dads who showed up at school boards and simply protesting this kind of LGBTQ garbage in their classrooms, the pornographic books, the pedophile imagery that they were getting in their classrooms. It wasn't the teachers teaching this stuff. It wasn't the publishers of books with images of sex between adult men and boys. That didn't get anybody in trouble. But it was when the parents spoke out that the FBI became involved. And so we're in a very perilous state right now. You could make a very good argument that the face of socialist control and the face of socialist undermining of American democracy and the republic is how the LGBTQ, either in both cases, selectively and perfect and and fully knowing what they're doing, and sometimes being used as dupes, are pushing through the LGBTQ agenda, pushing a radical sexual platform that is anti-American. It's almost impossible to separate now the rainbow flag from Marxist flags or the communist flag. They seem to be working in alignment here. As somebody who's been in public schools all across the country, given talks all across the country, I've seen, for every one American flag I have found in a middle or a high school in this country, you're going to find dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of LGBTQ flags. Something very nefarious is going on. It's going to get even worse. We're going to take a break now. And when we come back, I want to add the final piece of this puzzle. Because while the Christians were protesting quietly and being arrested, and the drag queens were twerking in the faces of little kids, a group of so-called Nazis showed up. And I want to interrogate the question. Were they really Nazis? Who were they? And what were they doing there? We'll talk to you after the break.
You're watching Lindell TV.
Are you worried about spike proteins and how they may impact your health? Are you looking for help? The Wellness Company has an answer in the form of our clean, pure, all-natural spike formula developed by experts like Dr. Peter McCullough. The Wellness Company's spike formula includes the incredible nattokinase, dandelion root, black sativa extract, green tea, and Irish sea moss. Even better, the spike formula by the Wellness Company is vegan, gluten-free, and made right here in the U.S., so you know that you can trust and rely on it if you're concerned about spike proteins. Buying American-made, natural ingredients of this quality separately will cost you over $100. Our spike formula is only $65.99. Get spike formula today by going to twc.health. Sentinel Report users use the code Newman at checkout for an additional discount. Go to twc.health, promo code Newman, and get peace of mind if you are concerned about spike protein.
Here's the news, Dad.
Is it, son? Is it?
What about this one, Dad?
Nope. It's hard to tell what's real and what's fake these days. There's just too much baloney out there. At the New American, they cut through the baloney and give me the truth.
Visit thenewamerican.com today. Use the promo code Newman to get $10 off the price of a print subscription.
Today's episode is brought to you by Freedom Project Academy. Looking for a K-12 classical online school built on Judeo-Christian values? FPA is enrolling now for the fall. Request your free information packet at freedomforschool.com. Don't forget to select Alex Newman under the How Did You Hear About Us section when you enroll. Again, that's freedomforschool.com.
When I invented MyPillow, my passion was to help each and every one of you. And 20 years later, all of your support is what keeps us going. Because of you, we've been able to create thousands of USA jobs and help millions get the best sleep ever. To thank you, my employees and I are bringing you a limited edition MyPillow. The Giza Elegance MyPillow is made with my patented adjustable fill, the most amazing cotton, and a 2-inch pipe gusset. It has 4 custom loft levels, machine washable and dryable, and you get my 60-day money-back guarantee and 10-year warranty.
Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get your limited edition 20th anniversary MyPillow queen size. Retails for $69.98, now only $19.98. That's right, get a queen size MyPillow for only $19.98.
From all of us here at MyPillow,
thanks America! You're watching Lindell TV.
Welcome back to the Newman Report on Lindell TV. A wonderful program, a wonderful network, and we're obviously talking today for Alex Newman. Alex is traveling the country doing what he usually does, spreading the good word, and I am Dr. Duke, and we are going to return to our story. We were talking before the break about a story from Waterton, Wisconsin. A young Christian activist is arrested on a public sidewalk simply for protesting a drag queen show that was actually twerking in front of little children, was very salacious. No censoriousness when it came to the drag queen. It was the Christian protester who was arrested. And there's a third kink to this here. It seems that during the talk, the drag queen show and the protest, a group of Nazis called Blood Tribe shown up. They're neo-Nazis. You could take a look there in the video. There they are. A small band in black with black swastikas marching through. It's really interesting, guys, about this. Is this group of so-called neo-Nazis called Blood Tribe, the only really organization that's talking about them is the Southern Poverty Law Center. You really can't find much of anything. Notice that there are cameramen already there, people already there with actual cameras, part of the group who are filming this for posterity. In other words, this is a very, very staged event. This is clearly, they march through, they scream their slogans, they've got their own camera crew with them. But they won't stop. They're not talked to by the police. They don't talk to individuals. They march through and do their business, and then they're gone. This is a very, very, very slippery situation, it seems to me. I mentioned already that you really can't find much about these people. We don't know who's involved with them. They don't have a website where you can see who they are. They don't make themselves available for interviews. They're not available. There's no representative that speaks for them. They kind of show up like this, stagey, very stagey, and then they're gone. And they have their own little promo team, their own little PR team that seems to follow this group, taking pictures, holding up cameras, very incredibly staged. And what's really interesting about them as they marched around, the same police officers who went up to and arrested the Christian who was standing there, they never spoke to these Nazis. They were actually preaching hate. They were saying anti-LGBTQ things. They were attacking the homosexuality very directly, unlike the young man who was simply reading from the book of Romans in the New Testament. These agitators were not stopped. They were not questioned. They were moving. They weren't fixed. They weren't simply just on public spaces. They were moving around. They were screaming. They were yelling. They were saying things that were incendiary, but they were left alone. We go back to the so-called insurrection of January 6th. We go back to that. And we know, the more we know, the more we hear, the more we see that there were all sorts of agent provocateurs who were in that crowd. The FBI was there, other aspects of government were there, urging on these protesters to get into the Capitol building. It wasn't simply just infiltration of a dangerous insurrectionist group. There was incitement there. There were false flag individuals there masquerading as protesters who were really agitators. To some degree, you could make the argument they were leading and guiding the so-called insurrection. When you look at what's going on with so-called Blood Tribe, the neo-Nazi group that you just saw, Mike can throw it up again right there. And when you look at these people again, and you look at how this is orchestrated, they've got their team, they're isolated, they are given space. The same police that were genuinely concerned by a handful of Christian kids seem utterly uninterested in the epithets, the racist epithets that were being screamed with all those little kids there. Well documented. And then you know what? They're gone. Nobody knows who they are. Nobody knows who they went. Nobody was able to follow them. They see the cops right there, just watching, right? There's the same barricade that the Christian kids were forced to stand behind, right? They're moving, they're screaming, they're doing what they're doing here. They're engaging in their kind of neo-Nazi protest. And, of course, nobody seems terribly interested in it. The cops aren't interested in arresting them. Their whole team. And you almost wonder if because there were so many cameras, so many different angles from which that was being produced, being filmed, being documented. You almost wonder if the police officers were a little afraid of confronting them because it was going to be so nationally televised. Although the interesting thing is, even if the police had confronted them, it would have been with more cause, not much, than going after the Christian kids, because they were moving across the landscape, whereas the Christian kids were in a public school, a public sidewalk, not threatening, not trying to go beyond barricades, not moving around. They were fixated there. And again, you can see from the video what's going to happen when the police officer comes up. Very brazenly just takes the mic. Makes you wonder. It does make you wonder, right? That what they really don't like, the police perhaps, is that someone's going to record what they're doing. That someone's going to be able to speak over them or to defend themselves. The microphone is taken away. Luckily, we have one of the Christians was filming this, and you can see how the other police officers are kind of mindful of that. The way they deal with it, and it's very interesting too. It's just the one kid with the microphone. If you're going to arrest them, I suppose, right? Why is one person arrested and the others who are doing exactly the same thing? Why are they not arrested? None of this makes a lick of sense here. And when you compare that to the images of the Nazis marching, this raises a whole number of red flags about those black flags. It doesn't make sense here. It's almost as if this is, I'll dare say it, it is staged. It's an act. Again, this is a very nebulous organization. No one's ever able to sit down and talk with them. Of course, they've got their faces covered. But you would think a media, with all those cameras and all that, those people that are there, all the people who are protesting, you almost wonder why. Why wouldn't you follow them? Why wouldn't an ambitious reporter seek to find where they go? Get in your car, see where they drive to. There's something very, very off-putting about this. And of course, I beg you to look up the story. Type in Marcus Schroeder's name, Watertown, Wisconsin, protest. You'll see dozens and dozens and dozens of articles from all sorts of sources. Mainstream media, major newspapers, CNN. You'll see it represented all across the country. And the funny thing is, they really don't talk much about the kid being arrested, and they certainly don't seem to suggest that that's a problem. What they're concerned about are the Nazis, right? The Nazis are they're sucking up all the air, this neo-Nazi group that may or may not actually be what they say they are. That's the excuse for the media, not only to ignore the attack on Christian free speech, the constitutional right, to double down, Christian kids, the freedom of religion and the freedom to speak. The First Amendment covers both of those, freedom of religion and freedom of speech. And it's interesting, journalism too, which is also mentioned here, is conflicting with this. Because these Nazis showed up, if indeed Nazis they are, they show up, and what happens? Well, the kid's ignored. His civil rights being run roughshod over are ignored. His arrest is being ignored. And it now becomes Nazis versus drag queens. And there you go. All right. Notice how the story has been manipulated completely by the media. It's almost, let me put it this way. The best thing that happened to the progressive media during this entire event was the onslaught of the Nazi group. That was perfectly, coincidentally perfect for what the left wants to do. They want to make the drag queens who are doing what they do in front of little kids, they want to make them seem like persecuted victims. The implication seems to be that just like the Jews, right, just like the Slavs, the LGBTQ here in Watertown, Wisconsin, were under the same threat from Nazis as we saw back in the 1940s. Of course, it's a complete and utter lie. But when that so-called Nazi group showed up, guess what? It gave the progressive media the opportunity to completely change the narrative. Now the narrative, when you read all those, and even more than the film that I shown you, go take a look in the internet. Look at how it's being reported over and over again, from the very top of Google all the way down. You got to go a long way down in Google to find a story that doesn't highlight the Nazis. The governor of Wisconsin is Tony Evers. He's one of these governors who hides in his basement. He does not go out much. He doesn't do a lot of campaigning. He stays home. Within seconds of those Nazis, Evers had, I should say more like minutes, you had a condemnation of the Nazis from our governor, and not a single word, not one single word about what happened to those Christian kids and their rights. The fact that the legislature, aspects of the legislature and the governor's office were so quick to respond to this and to say nothing about the boy, something's fishy here, guys. It's very Southern Poverty Law Center. It's target your enemies. It's very Alinsky. Target your enemies, go after them, lie about them, put plants among their midst to make them look like the story and not the real story about how we're losing our civil rights. Thanks for having me today.
You're watching Lindell TV.
Hi, I'm Joe Sweeney. I founded the Acervo Project in response to the growing epidemic of human trafficking and child exploitation. Classifying this as an epidemic is an understatement. Our investigation teams and cyber analysts are tracking child predators every day. We're making a difference, but we need your help. The average age of a trafficked child is just 14 years old. Will you join the Acervo Project team? Donate $14 a month to protect the next at-risk 14-year-old. Pledge your $14 a month at theacervoproject.org. That's ASSERVO.org.
Taken TV is making TV watchable again. Join us on the Active Kingdom Entertainment Network. Download Taken TV from your App Store now.